Hi, and welcome to the Muslim Sex Podcast. This is Dr. Sadaf Lodhi, and I would love for you to leave me a review of this podcast and also to share and like it and share it with your friends, see what they think, and let me know. I would love to shout you out on social media. And also, I would love for you to follow me on Instagram at Dr. Sadaf OBGYN, as well as TikTok. I also have started a YouTube channel at Dr. Sadaf Intimacy Coach. I'd love for you to follow me on all of those channels. And most importantly, I'd love for you to become a patient. I am now accepting telehealth patients for sexual health as well as menopause health in New York and Michigan. So if you are a woman that is looking for a doctor that understands you and can actually take the time to listen to all of your concerns, reach out to me. Reach out at Dr. Sadaf at drsadaf.com. And I would love to see you as a patient. And now for the episode. I'm an American board certified OBGYN, a mom, a Muslim, and I'm talking about sex. This is the Muslim Sex Podcast. Welcome to the Muslim Sex Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sadaf Lodhi, and this episode is everything you wanted to know about Tantra. And before I get into it, the first thing I want to make very clear is that I am not giving any type of medical advice. So if you're having any medical issues, please make sure you go and see your healthcare provider. And if you have any religious issues, please speak with your local religious leader. This is the Muslim Sex Podcast because I just happen to be a Muslim woman that talks about sex. So here we are today with Ms. Cordelia Gaffar, and she does Tantra. So welcome. And please tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. And actually, I'm going to mention a disclaimer here too, because Tantra is one of the body wisdoms that I've studied, but I've integrated into my own, I will call it a modality that I call the four-mind alignment. But we can talk a lot about Tantra today because I did go to Tantra school. So, hello, everyone. My name is Cordelia Gaffar. I call myself the ultimate joy goddess. I'm a soul medicine woman, and I help highly intelligent women to reconnect with their body wisdom. I'm also an 8-time best-selling author, and I've won multiple awards for my Free to Be Show podcast. And recently, I was given the honor of Powerhouse Woman of Influence. And next year in Dubai, I'll be awarded the Health Thought Leader, actually, of the year. So
Fantastic. Well, congratulations.
thank you. Thank you very much. And about Tantra, it's simply a Sanskrit word, which means weaving form with light, weaving light and sound with form, rather. And it's a mindfulness practice, I would say, where it allows you a mindfulness and spiritual practice, which allows you to be fully expressed through your 5 physical and spiritual senses. And it's a great complement to any religious or spiritual practice. So I'm also a Muslim, and I find it very useful as far as the breath practices go and the visualizations and meditations. There's also movements that you can do with your partner and by yourself. I find that Tantra is really great, especially I went into Tantra personally after getting a divorce, and I wanted to really lean into my sexual health and be more aware of that so that when I go into my next relationship, I would be more free and more open and connect more deeply with my partner.
So interesting. So what does a typical client come to you for? Like, what is like their complaint that they may be seeking help for?
Well, I'll give you an example of one person. She actually was looking for a partner, and she wants to create that in her life, but she's aware that people perceive her as very standoffish and not very social. And so she wanted to be more feminine, I guess. And I don't like that word because, it's like, what is feminine?
Right, like,
There's
what does that
what's,
mean? Mhm.
yeah, that's what's, there's a societal thought process of what that is. I would say that being feminine is just softness with yourself, compassion, kindness, grace. And when you practice that with yourself, you show up differently. So in the case of this particular person, let's just call her Kelly, okay? Um, she is finding, in the time that we've worked together this year, she now wears colors, whereas before she didn't even realize that she was wearing navy blue and brown all the time.
Mm,
But she's exploring with color. She smiles more.
mm.
She says that she has an inner smile. So and she gives herself more grace. So and so that's one type of person that will come to me. Then there's other people that will come to me where they've had actual sexual trauma, and it's prevented them from connecting with their bodies and by extension wanting to have sex at all.
Mhm. So how do you help them? Like, what is I know you said that Tantra is, a modality that you use, but what are, like, the steps that you would go? Like, for example, even with that woman that, thought that she was standoffish and wanted to be in a relationship, how do you help them get to the next step?
Yeah, so I've actually created two processes. So one is called Replenish Me, and that is really foundational before you can even get to the sex part, which is the four mind alignment. And Replenish Me is about creating sustainable self nurturing practices. So again, releasing, what is expected and accepted, right? Freeing your mind from that. And then just being in the practice of being a student of yourself. So, one other thing that she was aware of is she wanted to lose weight, right? And just by us focusing on her being more kind to herself and being aware, I brought her attention to, when you eat, do you taste your food? And she didn't even think of, she's like, no, it's just like it's lunchtime. I just grab something and put it in my mouth. She's in the healthcare field. So, not a doctor, but over a dialysis center. And so I said, well, what if you slow down and you actually experiment with this being a pleasure practice? Taste your food, smell your food, and chew it, and just by slowing down and presencing that her body requires a connection to the food, she's actually lost 20 pounds. So you see, foundationally, it's about r- recognizing, right, that you require nurturing. And when you open the door to that, then pleasure is possible on all levels.
Mhm. So I'm curious to find out what is your four-mind process that you were
For
talking?
mind alignment, yeah,
Four-mind
yeah.
alignment. What does that mean?
So I wrote a book called Detached Love, Transforming Your Heart so that you can transform your mind. And in that book, I talk about just coming out of your mind into your heart and recognizing you have emotions. And as I went into Tantra school after that for a couple of years. And then I learned about Kundalini yoga and some other things. And what I'm noticing is we've got it upside down. There are four minds, but it begins really with what I call your lotus first. So your lotus first would be like your reproductive organs, right? And your vulva. More broadly, people recognize it as yoni, but I don't like to use the same words that everybody else does. So I created lotus first. So that is really your primary spiritual mind and body wisdom. Then your stomach mind, right? So you may be aware that the gut flora and the vaginal flora, they can affect each other. So when you're more connected with your lotus first, your rest and digest calms down, and you're able to process food better, and your cortisol levels are lower and everything. And then there's the heart mind, right, which is more focused on the emotions. And then of course the brain mind. So those are the four minds, and when they're perfectly in alignment, you're not like thinking about something like work or anything like that. When you're with your partner, you can be completely free and connected.
Hmm. So that sounds really interesting. So is it sounds like a full mindfulness practice, right? Just being
Yeah,
present in the moment and really focusing on that.
yeah, it is. It is. It's a flow. Like I said, it's upward from your lotus first through your body, and it just um, creates a full alignment. So I'll say, like, one of the women that I'm working with currently, um, who is overcoming sexual trauma, it's really allowing herself to acknowledge that she actually has sexual desire, and that it's something to pay attention to physiologically.
Hmm. So she wasn't able to recognize that before, or she just didn't see that, and because of the trauma, maybe she put it far away, and then she giving herself permission now to experience it?
Well, not only that, I mean, so there's a deeper issue here, because we commonly know about fight or flight, right? But there's also fawn. And fawn is when you just, you know, you're there with a partner. You may or may not want to have sex, but you do what's socially pleasing or socially acceptable and just go ahead and have sex, right? Um, and a lot of women are not aware that they're in fawn. They think that they're being strong, but it's really a form of suppression. And so, in this case, she's now in the awareness that she's just going along, to please everyone or to please her partner, not taking the pause to say, let's slow down. Oh, I don't want to have sex today. Let's talk. Let's connect. Let's just hold hands or something like this. So that's another. Are you familiar with the term about fawning?
Nope, not at all.
You've never okay. So this is one of the things that I learned in Tantra school, where we really focused on uh, because many people don't know that they're in fawn when they're accustomed to doing what's socially acceptable. And so it's just, I guess most everybody I work with, come to think about it, they have been in fawn for most of their lives. So it's where, like I said, if you really, really, really don't want to have sex, and you really, really, really just in your whole body is just completely frozen, but you somehow are allowing yourself to just follow whatever it is physically that your partner is directing you towards. And this is another reason why I think that um, this is something that happens in marriages, and it happens in date rape. So usually people, they don't know how to speak up for themselves, and it affects their voice. So maybe they this is a compartmentalization that happens. It's like, well, in my professional life, yes, I'm a strong woman, I can speak up for myself, but behind closed doors, I'm that little girl that was molested, and I can't say anything. But because you're always in this performance mode, you just do that behind closed doors as well. Does
Hmm.
that make sense?
So, so just so if I understand it, so fawning is almost like a way to protect yourself or from trauma that you've experienced that you are experiencing again. It's almost a disassociation. Like you're separating yourself from what's going on and just so that you don't experience that trauma again, even though you physically are, you're just not present. So I guess maybe is Tantra tries to bring you back into the moment and so that you can advocate for yourself?
I I would say you could use tantra in that way, um, because of the breath work, right? So when you actually sync your, so this is one of the practices when you first are with your partner, you eye gaze, right? So you look into each other's eyes, and then you sync your breath. And if you do that, you know, that'll you don't have a choice but to be present, because the other part of syncing your breath is then your heartbeats are also connected. And once, you get that physical connection, the eye gazing will give you the emotional connection. There are a couple of things that can come up, right? Either it's a yes or it's a no, because the eye gazing can cause you to cry. It can cause you to laugh. It can cause you to, like there's so many things that come up, but most of all, it helps you to bare your soul to each other. And so the possibility of, fawning or freezing or any of that wouldn't even come into the picture, because you're forced to really be present with that person. So it's not like you shut off the lights and let's just jump into the sheets. It's like, you know, you s- we talked about this a little bit on my podcast, when we were recording, where you set a time to be with each other, right? Because it's a mindfulness practice. It's an intentional way of connecting with your partner. And when you set up that time to be present, you what scents would you like? What kind of lighting would you like? Do you want flowers? Do you want certain foods? What should be available? And when you have the stage set, that, where everyone has put inputs, right? So it's like, what would you like? What would you like? You're already having the conversation and the rules of engagement, um, that are required for you to be comfortable, and for your nervous system to be at rest.
So then what would you think, how is it that that specific modality, right? What you say about the eye gazing and syncing your breath and your heart, how do you think that helps somebody that has experienced trauma to help them move forward to get to the next step?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, it helps with trust,
Mm,
because when you oftentimes people don't even make eye contact in a regular day, right?
yeah, yeah,
I mean, if you walk down the street, like, think about it. Like, how many people do you smile and say hello or good morning to, and you're looking in each other's eyes? That's not a thing. We don't do that.
right.
So to do that in a private setting with someone that you have selected, like it's an intentional practice where you slow down and you decide, is this person aligned with me energetically? Are they aligned with me spiritually? And you'll know that when you look into somebody's eyes. You and
Mm,
and you'll know that whether if your breath sync. A lot of times, if your breath doesn't sync, then you already know that you cannot go any further. So
mm,
I think just the slowing down and the being present, not just in your body, but with another person's body and spirit, is the beauty of, this tantric practice. And I think that It brings to mind another thing because I think that the way we view sex, because it's interesting. Like I go to these like networking events, and people will be like, "What do you do?" I'm like, I'm a sex coach," and they're like, "I wasn't prepared for that," and
Mhm.
so they it's very common. I just see like they become this little child that's like, "Ooh, we're not supposed to talk about that," and I think that Tantra gives breath to the normalcy that we're spiritual beings in a physical body, and the expression of our spirituality physically when we're deeply connected to someone that we select, then we can find alignment, we can be free, we can be open, and we can trust, and we can love.
Hmm. Interesting. So, you mentioned that somebody that you worked with most recently had noted once that they started to connect with their breath and loving themselves and and really experiencing their senses had really sounded like they were practicing mindfulness and in every aspect of their life, and more specifically, when they were consuming food, that they lost 20 pounds. What other results have you seen in clients that have come to you and seeking help?
Yeah, they find out what they didn't know about themselves.
Mhm.
I would say overall, that's the broadest thing I can say. So, um, like she didn't know that she didn't really like her job, and
Mm.
that she wanted to give more and differently. So she's also started her own side uh, business. So people will find other passions. People will be open to exploring things that are new and exciting and tantalizing. Um, some women, they think that they're very conservative, and then they realize that they just always wanted to jump out of planes, or sometimes they will start, like I said, I guess there's a couple of other things that have happened. They'll start communities, they'll start businesses, they'll change jobs, they'll go for clients. If they own a company, they'll go for clients that they never would have gone for before. There's just like a courageousness that emerges
Hmm.
that I've noticed. Yeah.
Okay. So, as we wrap up our recording here, I'm just wondering, what are some pearls you think that you could leave our listeners and viewers with for somebody that may be thinking, like, hey, you know what, I wouldn't mind trying this out? Or, I wonder, they become more curious about Tantra. What would you advise them?
So it's not a scary practice, first of all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's definitely an opportunity to deeply connect with your soul, deeply connect with your heart, um, to to explore the things that you thought were taboo, um, and just feel very, very comfortable in your body, and feel very, very comfortable in your soul, and speak up for what your requirements are. I would say that's the main thing is you learn your requirements, and you learn how to communicate those very effectively and in a way that nourishes your soul deeply, so that you show up as a truer version of yourself, and you're free to be that.
Mm. Nice. So, for those individuals that are listening to this and are curious to learn more, where can they find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, and I also want to offer a free gift on the ultimatejoygoddess.com website, which is a journal where you can become a student of yourself over a period of 7 days, and just um, seek your ultimate joy in everything you do every day.
Great. Well, thank you. So that This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. So, well, we are done here, and it's been real and really intimate. And remember, this is not meant to be any type of religious or medical advice. So, if you're having any issues, please speak with your providers. And until next time, this is the Muslim Sex Podcast. So thank you for listening to the podcast, and make sure you leave us a review, share and like the podcast. And if you leave me a review, I'd love to shout you out on social media. So be sure that you share it with all your friends. And thanks for listening.